Yeah, I'm Tim.
So yeah.
And you are Tyler.
I'm Tyler.
And we are Backabit. And we thought it would be fun to walk people through Lotsa Blocks because we're super excited about it, and we spent like 10 months working on it. It's easily the largest software project I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's new. It's got that freshly baked bread smell to it still. So let's play it.
Dive in.
Yeah.
So I don't like loading screens. I don't know about you, Tyler.
No.
So we decided to make our loading screen sort of part of our branding, and there's a sort of recurring theme of everything loading really, really fast, and so we wanted to have this really fast feel for the game. So yeah, we thought it'd be kind of cute. Sort of feels like a little Pixar-like, I guess. When the game's loading up.
Yeah, we didn't intend for it to be Pixar-like, but it is that character turning into the logo sort of feel. But it's good to see a character too, since the menu is relatively devoid of... We originally thought there'd be eyes and stuff on those blocks in the background, but it's creepy. Like the hills have eyes. So it's good to get some character in there before we get to the title. But
so yeah, so this is the title screen. You can tap on the logo here to jump in. We've got our mode selection menu here, and by default when you first get the game, only adventure and last block standing are available to you, and all of the other modes are unlockable, or you can purchase them for one time with in-app purchase, and we think that's it's kind of nice to have goals in a game and something to work for in the long term to try and unlock all of the modes. So we try to make them not too difficult but not too easy to unlock, or if you want to, you can pay a one-time in-app purchase of $1 and unlock all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here to Adventure and kind of walk you through the first part of the game, pretty much. Yeah, so the first world, basically the idea here is you've got this block up here hanging out in a picker, and you've got this hand telling you that you need to drag the block, so you can drag, and then it tells you to drop, and then when you let go, awesome. And the idea here is that you're trying to cross the goal line, right? You're trying to stack these blocks to get up and cross the goal line. And then when you complete that, you get these bubbles. So like this one here is a 1-up that'll give you an extra life. So I can tap that, and it goes back up there into the menu. And so basically, if a block falls off the side of the platform, then you lose a life. And if you run out of lives, then you get a game over. So the idea here is you want to stack all the way up to the goal.
our intention was pretty much to create sort of a really pure stacking game. And there are a few different game modes that are spins on that, because when you try to create a pure stacking game, there's a few different ways to do it, ironically. But adventure mode is sort of the core game that we, I think, imagined when we imagined this experience, is just the ability to stack a wobbly tower of blocks up toward this, desired height, and avoiding obstacles. Although there's not much obstacles in World 1. We don't want people to get frustrated right off the bat. You need to get your bearings first. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, we gradually introduce a variety of different twists and elements. There's, I would say dozens of different types of blocks with different special properties. You can see here we're introducing a different kind of shape. And then we've got this rotation mechanic here that it's introducing for the first time, that I really love. It kind of almost feels like sort of a happy accident, the way that it worked, the way that it turned out. Like, first of all, I've never seen a game handle rotation in any way like this, and it was kind of funny taking your design, Tyler, of having this rotational element and realizing that, like, wow, in a lot of ways it's like a rotary dial. Like when you
right.
when you let go of it, it snaps back, and so it sort of has this familiar...
Which wasn't the intention, and the intention originally was that was something that just kind of comes up, like you were saying, organically, is when it came back, I was like, oh, that feels really good. I didn't know how it would feel, and I didn't imagine it with the snapback. I didn't know what would happen if the rotation handle would stay there or not, but it totally makes sense, I think, anyway.
Absolutely. Another thing that we have that's a really fun recurring theme throughout this game is, when we were first designing it, we knew we wanted it to be universal, and we knew that we wanted to have a great experience on both the iPhone and the iPad. But at first, at least, I think we had a little trouble agreeing on which orientation we should support for the actual game. And what we ended up doing is just making it so that any orientation on any device is playable. So as you can see, like for most of this demo, we're going to be in landscape mode, and we're on an iPad, but you can shift to any orientation. So, you know, on the iPhone, I think in a lot of cases it feels a lot more natural to play in portrait mode, and we also, you know, naturally a lot of this is your work because it was all design oriented, but we took a lot of consideration into being able to play with one hand, and then even going to the extra mile to support a left-handed mode, so that in the left-handed mode, this rotation element on the right-hand side winds up on the left-hand side, so it's easy for you to grab a block and drop it with your left hand.
Right. When we made ramps and when we started making this game, the goal is always to, like, you don't know if a game is going to be a success, so you want to make it for yourself. And one of the things we do is, besides just making a game we want to play, is to sort of outline what are the challenges we want to set for ourselves, so that it will be a really great learning experience. And the thing we talked about is we wanted it to be essentially a orientation agnostic game, in the sense that it didn't care if it was wide or tall or anything. And that's really challenging from a design standpoint, because it means that you really have to shy away from any interface elements or any elements that need to be like fixed to like two edges of the screen at once. We do that a little bit with the progress bar at the top of the screen, but aside from that, the game has relatively few elements that can't sort of float regardless of orientation. So the pause button and those controls float on the left, the rotation mechanism floats on the right, and or if you're playing in left-handed mode, the opposite. But that was a challenge, especially in the menus. It's really hard to design menus that can work in landscape or portrait, and there was a lot of learning that happened in the process of doing that. It was very challenging. But...
So that, and so we completed World 1, so now we're moving on to World 2, which is sort of like the Canyon world. The first world was sort of an homage to our hometown in Portland. Hopefully some of our friends and family will pick up on that. And so in this world, you know, we're introducing Mega Block for the first time. And the interesting thing about Mega Block is that, you know, he starts out very small, and then when you drop him, he expands. And so we have a variety of different blocks that have these different sort of special properties that, you know, have their own physics elements that interact with the rest of the gameplay that are kind of interesting. And then we have these coins here too. You know, you pop one of these and you get another coin, and once you reach 100 coins, you get an extra life that should be sort of a familiar element to people who are fans of.
We hope so. It may not be familiar in the sort of arcadey block stacking context, but we hope when people start earning them, it becomes apparent that it works just like, you know, Mario or Sonic or any of those classic games. Their collection mechanism work. The two interesting things about this world and the design of it are that the Mega Block actually started out as a completely different design, right? You remember our original idea was, we call it multi-block, and multi-block would start out as that smaller square and then sort of replicate to fill a 3x3 grid, but would become solid. And the technical aspects of that, it was so complicated when we actually thought about it. We liked the design, we went, why doesn't he just grow? But that multi-block idea grew into this, what we call Mega Block, but also into a block that shows up later in the game, and I won't spoil it, but there's another block. So those sort of happy accidents of having an idea, liking it, it doesn't work, but it ends up yielding a few, as you said, happy accidents. The other interesting thing about World 2 is that another design challenge for myself was that I don't have a ton of experience doing background illustrations, and I really wanted to stretch myself there. So a lot of times I would find that it was easier for me if I sort of picked a definite point of inspiration, and I'm a big comic book nerd. And so the rock formations in this section are an ode to one of my favorite classic comic strips called Crazy Cat. They're an homage, I guess you could say. And so if there happen to be anyone else who are nerds for 30s innovative comic strips, you may recognize a few of the canyon formations in the background as being indicative of his work. So it's really subtle, but stuff like that, it's fun to put a little bit of yourself in your game, even if it's really subtle, you know. Especially if it's subtle. It doesn't detract from it anyway.
Another interesting element that we introduced in this world, that we have a variety of our different obstacles that are in play as you're playing through a level. You might have noticed these little spinning purplish orbs down here. Like, this is an obstacle that really kind of acts like a pinball bumper to a certain degree. And this was a lot of fun to work on because it was arguably probably one of the most complex animations that we had in this game, and that, you know, you've got all these different layers involved with this orb, with the different spinning elements and the different blinking attributes, and then when you actually make contact with it, you know, it expands and it sort of like exudes his aura, I guess you could say, as you're making contact with it. So these are pretty interesting. We have some other obstacles in the game too that add an interesting dimension and twist to the difficulty and challenge.
Overall, there are just a ton more sprite-based animations in this game than what we had in Ramps. Ramps, it was a lot more procedural animation because it was a lot more sort of just strictly geometric shapes, and the animations tended to be, you know, this thing moves. But in this one, because it is so much more cartoonish in style, you know, there are a lot more of those, like you said, the obstacle animations. You were doing really terribly.
I know. Down actually at 14 lives though, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, you built up a surplus, and now you're just doing it for the benefit of the viewer, so they can know what it's like for that stuff they animate in.
The backgrounds really were a lot of fun, especially from my perspective, from a development standpoint, because we decided to take the approach of having parallax animation for everything, so that as you're scrolling through everything, it all moves in parallax with it. And some of these, like this world in particular, have, you know, 9 or 10 different layers of parallax that move in unison. And then this level in particular is interesting because we introduced power-ups for the first time. And so you have this little power-up menu down here, and you have these different power-ups with a variety of different attributes. So you can take like this zap power-up, for example, and drag it over a block, and it'll zap it and get rid of it.
Without losing a life, that's important.
It is important, yes. It's supposed to be advantageous. You can grab the rabbit here and drag it over a block, and it will duplicate it. And then you've noticed the platform down here can get kind of wobbly just depending on what's going on with the physics. Sort of a nice little helpful addition is you can grab the lock here, and it'll lock the platform in place, which that's actually my favorite power-up because it's in my opinion, the most useful.
It's the last one we added, too. It was a very late addition, but it's my favorite.
Absolutely.
It's funny how that happens, but... Well, have we shown enough of adventure yet?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we can take a look at some of the other game modes. So I'll drop back here into the main menu.
There are 5 more worlds that we didn't show for you to explore, and
lots of game to play, and it gets much more difficult as you go. So, so the next one we want to show is Free Fall.
This one will be fun with the cord plugged in.
Yes, I'll probably hold on to the cord to make sure it stays plugged in. So this is an accelerometer, like tilt-based mode. We'll kick this off, and it'll take us back into Portland here. So that the blocks are actually falling from the sky, and you tilt your device in order to position where it's going, so you're affecting gravity essentially. And then each time you complete a level, you get an extra life, so you don't have bubbles in this one. So you're really just kind of fighting against the forces of gravity in this one. And in some ways, we felt like it felt a little bit more Tetris-like. That might be an appeal to some gamers.
Yeah, it's a little bit. We know that tilt-based games are polarizing. You know, we know that some people hate tilt and some people love tilt, and you know, that's actually more of a reason to put this mode in, because we know some people are gonna love it and some people are going to feel like they're out of control with the accelerometer and stuff. I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun, and that's one of the great things. You know, it's one of the things we had a lot of fun doing in this game was just going into it saying we can have multiple game modes, so we can sort of satisfy those different tastes. We can
and there's 7 game modes in all, which was an amazing undertaking.
It was a bit lofty, yes. I kept whenever we would meet up for like we would sometimes meet up at the Starbucks that's halfway between my apartment and where you live and where we are now. And I would always like say like, okay, let's figure out, you know, what we want to do for launch, like trying to think like, you know, lean app mode, and you would always say like, you know, no, we don't really need to cut any of these modes. I think I can do it. And I'm like, okay, if you say so.
But, we did it. It took a long time, but
we did it. Yeah, we did it, but it took a while, but it was good. And there are a couple ideas that we had that are on the back burner. People like the game, and if it does well, we could always explore them further. But
that's correct. There is one mode that is sort of half done that hopefully we'll be able to add in there at some point. No promises yet. We want to see how all that works out first. But.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other interesting thing about this mode that a variety of different modes have is this one has a leaderboard, so you can compete against your friends. So I think there's 4 leaderboards in total, so all tied to specific modes and how well you can do in each of those modes.
Is it hard to talk and tilt at the same time?
I'm just bad at multitasking in general. So let's go ahead and switch gears here.
You're doing all right though. You're doing better than I would have predicted. With you've got multiple handicaps playing that.
All things considered, I have a lot of practice though. So
yeah, that's true.
So the next one I'm going to show is Last Block Standing. We have 3 different Game Center multiplayer modes in this game. 2 of them are turn-based, 1 competitive and 1 cooperative, and then the other one is a real-time competitive. So this one is a turn-based competitive. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into a game that we've already got going here. And the idea behind this is it's kind of like King of the Mountain to a certain degree, or I mean, Last Block Standing is a pretty fitting name. You can play between 2 and 5 players, and if you lose a block, if it falls off the platform, you're out. And so basically the last person playing in a turn-based game to have a block that they haven't lost, basically, wins the game, and it tracks all of this on the Game Center leaderboards as well. And then part of that ties into unlocking versus mode for the game, and that I think you need to win, is it 10 or 15 games, Last Block Standing, to unlock versus, something like, maybe it's 10.
I don't remember.
I think it's 10. So as you can see, now it's my turn again. Tyler's playing over there on his iPad, and we're going back and forth. He's showing it off.
See? I really am. It's really hooked up to Game Center.
We're going back and forth here, passing the turns, and actually what I'm going to do now that it's Tyler's turn again is I'm going to hop out here. And this is stuff that, like, if you've ever played a turn-based game in Game Center, should be really familiar to you. I just really like it because it's so nice that Apple just has all this stuff baked in for developers to tie into, and you can just focus on making your game and not building all of this infrastructure. But yeah, so I can just respond to that notification right there, and it just pops me right back into that game.
Mm-hmm. And normally, like, Last Block Standing mode is a mode that we designed to be this sort of this sort of rhythmic challenge that you can really go ahead and do a turn, go run some errands or something, come back, your friends had a turn, and you can have kind of this friendly competition that occurs between the 2 of you. So
I'm actually going to sacrifice. I'm going to take one for the team here and let you win this one, Tyler.
I appreciate that because I'm worse at it than you, so I actually really...
This is my favorite
I know
part.
We're doing it for the sake of the demo, but yes.
Whenever the game ends in any mode, you get this giant wrecking ball that comes in and shatters the screen, which is awesome. So yeah, so Tyler won, and I'm actually playing on my wife's account. Feel free to add her on Game Center, by the way. Erica Lee Sears. I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
She's over there smirking at me in the corner of the room. So then the other mode that we wanted to show you was Versus, which is our real-time competitive multiplayer. So you can hop in here, and we're going to do an auto match. Tyler and I are probably the only people in the universe right now that are playing this game because it's not out yet.
Unless a beta tester is just whiling away his Saturday playing it. Then.
Yeah, wouldn't that would be... that
would actually be awesome.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we're matched up here, and let's go. I'm going to wait for Tyler to put down
this is a terrible first block to get. Okay, here we go.
So basically, you're racing against your opponent in real time to get to the goal, and as you can see, Tyler's got his blocks there in the background. It's basically like a shadow or a ghost of those blocks, and this is not looking good.
No, this is going terribly. Oh.
I think you're doing...
Come on.
Oh, you got it. You've got me on this one.
Yes.
So the other interesting thing here that we could probably finish this off with is that in the credits in here, we thought this would be just kind of a fun little thing for people if they ever want to play us. Our names are in here in the credits. You can tap on our name and it'll bring up a friend request, and so feel free to add us as friends on Game Center and challenge us to games. We're looking forward to not only playing this ourselves once it's out there in the wild, but also playing with each of you through all the different Game Center modes. So definitely feel free to add us. So
absolutely.
So yeah, thanks for checking this out, and if you ever have any questions for us or feedback on our games, hit us up at hello@backabit.com.
Yeah, or just go to backabit.com or Backabit Games on Twitter. Lotsa Blocks is supposed to launch this coming Thursday on 10/11/12, October 11th, and we're really excited. We hope people dig it.
Thanks.
Yeah!